Father Rodriguez, the next question is for you, and this has to do with your discussion about the identity of the Holy Father. Is not a pope excommunicated Latae, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Sententiae.
Latae Sententiae.
Thank you, Father. For rejecting some doctrine and papal encyclicals, and what would this mean regarding obedience to him? So, is Francis essentially excommunicated as a result of his rejection of certain doctrines?
It's complicated.
Thank you, Father.
No, it is complicated. It really is very complicated. Right now, that's why it's a controversy. It is very complicated because you have to make distinctions between what is a material heretic, what is a formal heretic. You have to also go and see what processes, Chris was talking a little bit about processes, what processes have been in place in the church to be able to address this issue of, let's just say, the possibility of a heretical pope, or what do you do if the pope is a heretic. You have any number of different theologians in the history of the Catholic Church where it's not something that is absolutely clear cut. And that's also what makes it very difficult right now, is that we are in a kind of difficult situation. I do think, my view is there is obviously a process in place, but really that's up to the cardinals. They're the ones that, let's say, have to kind of get the ball rolling to really have something formally take place. And they're not willing to do that at this point. And so it just adds to the confusion. So, I guess I'll leave it at that here. I think, Chris is saying, it's a hornet's nest. But I guess I don't know if anything needs to be added.
The year was 1521, and Luther is summoned to the diet of worms, which is what they want us to eat these days. And he's given a chance to defend his propositions or to recant. So he has a trial. And he refuses to recant, and so condemnations are issued, and then he's declared excommunicated by Pope Leo X. So he had a process, he had a trial, he had a verdict, he had a sentence. You can't do that with a pope. So what the Sedevacantists are saying is the pope gets less consideration than Martin Luther. It can't be. So we're left with another conundrum. We're not in any position to say the Pope has deposed himself on account of heresy. Does he spout heresies all over the place? Of course he does. It's manifest. There's no doubt about that. Some of the things he says are completely contrary to the faith. So effectively we have a validly elected anti-pope, in a sense, who's undermining the papacy. And even someone like Jeff Meares. You know the name Jeff Meares? He's a middle of the road, pretty sober Catholic commentator of the conservative Catholic stripe. He's not a traditionalist, and he wrote a column about 7 years ago entitled "This Disastrous Papacy," in which he said that Pope Francis is a danger to the faith. It's simply true. We can't deny it. But what does it get us to say that he's deposed himself? What's the practical benefit of that? There is none. What we do is what we have to do. We don't follow him when he utters errors, and we resist him to the extent that he would try to impose upon the church anything contrary to the faith. And the tradition of papal resistance goes back all the way to St. Peter, who was resisted by St. Paul because St. Peter was refusing to eat with the Gentiles. That seems like a trivial thing, but it's not a trivial thing. If he refuses to eat with the Gentiles, he's saying this religion that Christ established is not for the Gentiles, which would have been a tremendous scandal and would have crippled the church at the very beginning of her mission. And Paul rebuked him to the face for doing that. You should be eating with the Gentiles. This is the new religion, the universal religion. So it goes all the way back to St. Paul, and St. Thomas says we have a duty in those cases to resist an abuse of authority, and not to do so is indiscreet obedience, which is wrongful. It's even sinful to not resist something that involves a depredation against the faith. We have a duty to resist. St. Bellarmine says this, St. Cajetan says this. all the right to say this. And so the issue is one of resisting a wayward pope, not declaring that he's lost his seat. We're in no position to do that.
While it's difficult to get clear answers, it's important to have the conversation and to express one's confusion and doubts and to ask priests and bishops about this so they know about the trouble in the church from this. A shepherd should be looking to the flock. Too often their eyes are just on their superiors, how to please them. So the flock need to make some noise to get their attention, and then maybe they will deal with the problem.